Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I'm Maria Sensi-Sellner, Artistic and General Director of Resonance Works Pittsburgh. I'm so excited to be with you all this evening. I hope you were able to join us for the performance, the premiere of part 3 of our March of the Women series, which just dropped at 7:30, and it is available on demand. We're also coming to you live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. And I'm here with this amazing crew of lady bosses right here. We've got a full house and a lot of music makers and music creators to talk to tonight. And we're excited to hear your questions and comments. And there's a couple ways you can engage with us. If you just watch the performance, then there's a chat feature that's on our event page. If you're watching this, then you clicked on the right place, and there is the chat feature. You just have to put your name in at the bottom, and then you can join us on the chat. And then on Facebook or YouTube, you just put some stuff in the comments, and we'll be watching all of those spaces, and would love to engage with all of you in this way. I would love to introduce all of these magnificent women to you. And we'll just go around and introduce yourself, say who you are, what you do, where you are, because everybody's all over the place. And if you could talk a little bit, just say for a moment which pieces were yours, either composing or performing, and then we'll dive into some deeper conversation. I'm going to go clockwise on my screen. So next to me is my friend Kate Pakinskis.
Hi everyone, my name's Kate Pakinskis. I'm currently in Western Massachusetts near Northampton, and I'm a composer. I wrote the first piece on the program tonight, Ellis 2, as well as the vocal octet We Are.
Thanks, Kate. And next to Kate is Helen Huang.
Hi guys, as Maria said, I'm Helen Huang. I am currently in Richmond, Virginia, at my childhood home. And what else are we supposed to say? What pieces did we perform? So for this concert, I performed Sheila Remish's 3 Steps Forward and Michelle Chan's piece, I Can't Understand a Word You're Saying. And I also was involved in Kate's octet as well.
Fantastic. I'm just going to snake around. Michelle Chang, who I just met. I've known her for a whole 10 minutes. Hi, Michelle.
Hi everyone. So I'm Michelle Chang, I'm a composer. I'm currently based in Berkeley, California. And I wrote the piece, I Can't Understand the Word You're Saying, and the text was set by Helen. It was a great pleasure.
Fantastic. Timothy Williams, joining us once again. You've seen her on the previous parts of this series.
Hello. I'm Timothy Williams. I'm coming to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania today. I'm a mezzo-soprano, and I performed End of Summer Haibun by the wonderful Jill Lyons, and I'm also involved in Kate's octet as well.
And Timmy's in Pittsburgh, right? Yes. You're still in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Annika Sokolovsky.
Hey everyone, I'm Annika. I wrote the piece Don't Say a Word, and I also sang it. I am zooming in from Boulder, Colorado today.
Awesome. Maria, the other Maria. It's not often we have Maria. Yes. Usually this isn't my problem, that there's another Maria. But this is
really, it's always
Maria.
my problem. I'm Maria Dominique Lopez, and I performed in Kate's Ellis 2 at the beginning. I performed Marina Lopez's Spoonful of Hate, the third piece in our Sing Out Strong Immigrant Voices series or set that we presented. And then Selka Ojakongas's piece, The COVID Dance, to which I wrote the text. Oh, and I'm in California. I'm in San Pedro, California, which is about 20 minutes south of LAX. Come visit me in sunny California.
I'd love to. It's gotten cold here. Take me to California. Next to me is Sheila Ramesh.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sheila Ramesh. I am also in the not so sunny part of California. I'm in the Bay Area, surrounded by an ash cloud. I composed the second piece today, Three Steps Forward, with text by Chuen Yan Lin. And it's an honor to be here.
Fantastic. Now, just to confuse everybody, we have Marina Lopez, not to be confused with Maria Lopez. Marina.
Yeah, I had to do a double take when I read the program. I was like, wait, they put me to, oh no, this is Maria Lopez who's singing it. Okay. Yeah, I'm Marina Lopez. I am a composer. I'm based in Pittsburgh, and I wrote the music for the song A Spoonful of Hate, and Maria performed it.
Wonderful. Also, I think in California, Selka. It was great to meet you too.
Nice to meet you too. It's wonderful. Privileged to be here. My name is Selko Jakangas. I'm the composer of the COVID dance that Maria Dominique Lopez wrote the lyrics for. And yes, I am based in Los Angeles, California, and that's how Maria and I know each other.
Fantastic. Katya Jampaladian. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. What a fun night. I am Katya Jampaladian, and I am based out of Pittsburgh. I'm a lucky one to be in the same city and to record and be able to perform with all of the nice people. And I was so excited to be there. I was just so happy. I'm sure all can relate. And I play the cello, so I was on the pieces I Can't Understand the Word You're Saying, which we had a lot of fun with. I was on The Spoonful of Hate by Marina Lopez, Kate Pukinski's Alice 2, and Sheila Ramesh's Three Steps Forward as well.
Wonderful. And Katya works with us a lot, and we're so grateful to have her in our ResWorks family for years now. New this year to our performing forces is Karen Jang Lin, who played everything, pretty much.
Well. Hi, everyone. So nice to see your faces. I'm here in Pittsburgh. So I played with Katya for the Three Steps Forward, LS2, Spoonful of Hate, and I Can't Understand a Word You're Saying, which I was brave enough to just watch before I came on here. I was a little nervous. And End of Summer Hyphen. So with wonderful Timmy. So yeah, it was wonderful to do work and to play and to see the end result.
Thanks, Karen. Dawn Posey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dawn. I am a violinist based in Pittsburgh, and I did the Missy Mazzoli piece, and I was on Annika's piece as well, Don't Say a Word.
And last but absolutely not least, Gilda Lyons.
Hi, everyone. I am the composer of End of Summer Hyben, which was sung so beautifully by Timmy and played so beautifully by Karen, and I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited that all of you are here. For those who have watched the performance and those who have not yet watched the performance but are joining us on social media, I'd love to just chat a little bit about the repertoire about the pieces. We were supposed to do a live opera this fall with Resonance Works. We were supposed to do Jorge Sosa and Cerise Jacobs' I Am a Dream. If we go back a year, that's what we were doing. We were giving the world premiere of this really powerful opera about two immigrant women in Boston with Whitesnake Press. And of course, because of COVID, our live production this fall has had to be postponed, but we are absolutely committed to bringing that work to the Pittsburgh audience. It's such a powerful piece. It's such an emotional piece. And it's such a personal and authentic storytelling from Cerise and Jorge. And we want to have some element of that in our reinvented season. And this wonderful song commission that was started by what's called Sing Out Strong. It's now in its third iteration happening currently, I believe. White Snake Projects takes on world premieres that take on various issues, and this was one of the first ones, this Immigrant Voices set of songs. So they had 10 songs that were commissioned, and shows you I know really good people, because I knew several of the people who were selected to write these songs. And tonight we were excited to present 4 of those to you, and those are the ones that they've all been talking about. Ellis 2 by Kate, A Spoonful of Hate by Marina Lopez, I Can't Understand a Word You're Saying by Michelle Chang, and 3 Steps Forward by Sheila Ramesh. And I'd just love to talk a little bit, the way we were able to perform those works. We really wanted Helen and Maria to perform them, because they were supposed to be Rosa and Singa in our production of Dreamer. Helen is in Virginia and Maria is in LA, and we wanted to engage our Pittsburgh artists too. So we did, I think it was Kate who said asynchronous performing with Karen and Katya recording in Pittsburgh, and then Maria and Helen recording their part at home where they are, and then we assembled them. And this is where I have to say the biggest kudos of the night, of the week, of the month to Christian Chechko, our recording engineer. He is a miracle worker. He has magic. I don't even know where he gets it from. But he manages to make these performances sound like they're in the same room. And it's really fantastic when you realize, I don't know, at least some people were recording on their phone, and maybe quite a few people. It's amazing what can be done. But this actually serves to introduce the people who are performing together. So Ellis 2, Maria, Katya, and Karen perform that, and it's Kate's piece. Kate, can you tell me a little bit about the piece? You had a little bit of a say in the text. You got to show preference for texts, I believe, in this program. And what was it that spoke to you from this text? And all the texts were written by people who had submitted, who have connections to immigrant experience.
Yeah, so when the composers were all selected, we were given a number of texts to read through, and then we made a list of sort of preferences for texts that we would want to work with. And then based on everybody's preferences, we were assigned our text. And so mine is adapted from a poet named Eva Kruszell. She's a Polish immigrant. She lives in the Boston area, and her text, I took some liberties with it in terms of the order of the words. So the phrase "they carry" and then usually a noun was sort of, it was this barrage of things that people were carrying with them, both tangible and intangible. There are moments where you sort of get a sense of the amount of things that are being carried, but then also sort of the bigger weights that are carried when people are moving, whether they choose to be moving or not. So, really the biggest liberty I took was changing around the orders of things. So there's a verse in the beginning that has lots of B words together. They carried Bibles and pins and buttons and the Book of Common Prayer. And then there's a section that has words that begin with C. So crucifixes and comforters, candlesticks, these sorts of things. But for me, the line in Eva's poem that really stuck out to me is about 2/3 of the way into it, which is the high point of the piece. And it's, they carry the distance from what they loved the most. And that was also in the poem, it was the longest stretch of words without the words "they carry" interrupting it. So it really stuck out to me as just this really beautifully vivid and sort of gut-wrenching feeling of being apart or being away from. And so that was something that really stuck out to me in the process of writing the piece.
Maria, when you first approached this piece, what struck you in performing it? And of course, we have to do it in this very isolated way, which is a big challenge for anything, but especially for a new work that you've never heard before, and that you don't have the what now feels like a luxury that Katya and Karen had, which was to be in the same room and discuss how that was going to work. Tell me a little bit about that process and about your learning the piece.
Well, I think, one of the things that I actually really love about learning new music, which I literally, if you watched the call last week of us, I literally never thought I would speak those words ever. I never thought I would find anything that I love about learning new music. And now here I am, like, basically only ever singing new music now these days and totally loving it. But one of my favorite things about learning new music is the MIDI track, mainly because I'm a very empathetic singer. Well, I'm just like physically, I hear the way a singer sings and for some reason it goes into my throat and I try to mimic it. And that's not always the greatest technique to utilize. And oftentimes, singers, we make mistakes in live performance and those things can get ingrained in the brain when you listen to something like that. So MIDI is really, really important for me when I'm learning new music because it allows me like a clean slate to learn with, to hear the accompaniment in my ear, to hear how it all fits together. That's really important and helpful for me, especially because I play the piano, but I play it very poorly. So it's a little difficult to learn if I'm playing for myself. One of the things that I loved about learning this piece in particular was the challenge of the words. I think there are a lot of them. There are a lot of nouns that like what Kate was talking about, all those things that the immigrants bring with us, but the picture that it paints, just the beautiful dynamic diversity of what people bring with them when they are either exiled from their homelands or they leave their homelands for the promise of something better. That was really interesting. And then, of course, I think probably my favorite part of the whole piece was the knocking. I'm not sure if anybody recognized this as they were listening to the piece, but there was a lot of knocking happening. And that was me knocking on my piano lid. But that idea of them knocking at the door to opportunity, knocking at the door to a new life, knocking at the door to a way forward from whatever it is that they left behind. I think there's something very exciting about that. And that's what really drew me.
Kate, tell us about the knocking. What motivated you to put that into your piece?
I was on a hike this afternoon thinking about what you might ask me about and if I was going to have some really beautiful poetic response to the knocking. This was like my fear because it was not nearly as poetic, I think, as Maria just explained it. But this is one of the things that I really love about new music and being able to write something and then hand it to somebody else who really finds themselves in the piece is they pull things out of what I wrote and put, their own stories and their own experiences and their own ideas of what it could be and, make it theirs. And so I think for me, I a little bit just would rather go with Maria's story of how she heard it. For me, it was when I was writing it, it was really just a matter of thinking about how to actually help sort of anchor in the meter changes. So there's lots and lots of shifting between 2s and 3s in this piece, and it's all based on or sort of in response to text stress. So spoken text stress, it all fits. It's built to sort of highlight spoken text stress in those words. And so some of that work was actually just to try and sort of make clearer those changes between 2s and 3s. But again, I think Maria's sort of image of what it is much more poetic. So I might go with that from here on out.
Still a good idea. It's all good. I'd love to pivot a little bit to Helen. Helen, you performed 2 of these pieces, which actually are both about learning a new language or not knowing the language. That wasn't really on purpose. We didn't pick them because of the topic. We just were picking from the set of the Boston SOS songs. And but one of them was your text, and I'd love for you to talk about both of those pieces, and we can engage Michelle and Sheila too. But tell me about those pieces and how that actually reflected your own personal experience.
Totally. I think honestly, I was very thankful that you gave me two pieces that are language related. It's something that I'm sure all of us who are singers, we deal with it every single day. I think this experience that's written in Michelle's piece, it honestly has shaped my life a great deal. I think back. It's because of that experience that I went through going to a new country at such a young age and not knowing a word of English, and coming out the other end knowing that I can conquer this giant obstacle and be okay and function in the world just like any other one of my peers, gave me a sense of strength that I feel like nowadays I think I can do anything that I can put my mind to because of that. So I'm super thankful for that. In terms of these two specific pieces, I know I've said this so many times, but Michelle is just so surreal that I get to sing a piece that's about something that I lived through. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I was actually thinking about this yesterday, that when I was living through that experience, I did not find it funny. It was, when you're feeling like an awkward kid, that's not funny. And I'm finally in that part of my life, I can finally look back at that story and think, yeah, that's pretty funny when someone is trying to convey something to you in a language that you just don't understand. They keep yelling at you and keep waving their arms and thinking that would achieve something, but that doesn't achieve anything. And if you look at it from an outside point of view, it's pretty funny.
Well, maybe Michelle, you want to chime in there a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So when I like Kate said, when Squarespace Project provided us the lyrics, I really felt this one resonate with my own experience because so personally I'm a 1.5 generation, which means I was born in the United States but came back with my parents to their home country, which is in Taiwan. And I spent most of my time, grew up there, and I moved back to the States like 6 years ago. I didn't come here when I was a kid, but like I went here for my master programs, and it was still like my English. I can like communicate, but I still very alienized because I couldn't really harness the language well enough. And being in like all of a sudden in academia settings and such is really timid. And honestly, I feel like the first few years I have to like use a lot of my body gestures to like try to describe what I mean. And even like I went through like a few stages. I think like what Helen said, like looking back, we can really like laugh at those experiences. Like we try to just kind of like look at almost like how you traumatize from the whole experience. That so many of them that you just cannot really count how many of those kind of like weird experiences that you have experienced. But then you look back and just kind of like let it go using humor and just like, yeah, this is like, it's a crazy ride. And I really appreciate that, like how the lyrics really use it in a very first-handed perspective, but use it as a humor, but still really bring people, try to be the person who's experienced that, blah, 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 blah. You really don't know what the hell was going on and such. And yeah, the performer just did such a good job in the end. It was so powerful. It really was like feeling like you don't know what your fellows were having fun of. Like even like as a master students, it's like I hang out with my four fellows, and I just didn't catch what they were talking about, and just I feel I try to laugh with them, but honestly I don't really know why I'm laughing at. And that was a really almost like I don't know, positive traumatized experience. You feel fit in but not.
Well, and
so.
you ask a lot of your performers too. So Katya and Karen had to have lines in a way and act. So I think you worked with some amazing cellists and pianists, and of course Karen and Katya. You want to talk a little bit about when you got this piece and realized what you had to do?
I don't know if Karen can jump in. She can jump in at any time, but there
Okay,
was
go ahead.
hey, so it was, first of all, it was very much fun. And I can relate so much to what Helen said, because I was just sitting, we were watching it together with my fiance, and he basically said, "What's going on?" I was like, "This is how I felt on my first semester at CCM. I cried after every single lecture because I thought I would fail the course because I wasn't understanding it." So that was absolutely brilliantly done, and very, interesting. So, but also putting it together, yes, like Maria said, acting was so much fun. Just to be a part of it and just, finally not just play the music, but be on stage. So it like kind of opened up our inner artist.
Yeah, it was nice to not be quiet for once, and it was funny. I felt like wearing the mask helped. Like I felt like I could be even louder, like, or just be even more wild because I had my mask on. I was born here in the States, and my parents immigrated here 35 years ago. So, and I am positive that's what my parents went through as well. I remember watching Sesame Street with my mom, and we learned English together. I thought, so I need to show my parents that piece actually, and I'm sure they would appreciate it. But going back to that, it was so much fun, and so well written too. Like it sounded much more complicated than it looked, and that because when I watched the performance, it was so seamless, and just all the interjections, and I mean, I'm sure there was a little editing, but still I felt like it flowed really well, and it only took us like two takes and like barely any rehearsal, and we had so much fun. We wanted to keep doing it again and again.
We had to do it last, right? You had to do it last because
we had to do it last after all the counting. We had to do it last.
We couldn't do anything after blah 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 blah.
Yes.
Let's pivot to Sheila's piece. Helen, you would talk a little bit about it?
Absolutely. It's funny, that phrase, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. That's what my dad said to me when I was learning English and feeling so frustrated that, one day I would feel like, "Oh, I made so much progress," and the next day I don't understand a word of English again. And he said, it's okay. That's the journey of learning a new language. Like, eventually you'll inch forward, inch back, inch forward, inch back. Eventually you will get there, and you just have to be patient. And I think, Sheila, something you do so well is performing this piece. I feel like I'm back in that, I'm reliving that experience. I had a coach once said to me, Pamina's aria Achifus is one of the greatest arias that's ever existed, because the performer feels like Pamina in that moment because of the musical environment that is created. And that's exactly how I feel performing your piece. So, thank you.
What a glorious compliment. It's funny. When I encountered this text, I was so drawn to it because I had recently had the experience of learning another language as an adult, and I had moved to Taiwan and started learning Mandarin from scratch. And I had studied many languages before. I had learned English as a child. I really, had a whole ego about it that was instantly struck down. And that feeling of every task, every opportunity to listen and speak being an opportunity for both sort of great joy and pride in these tiny little transactional moments, and also an opportunity for, at least for me and what I read into Chuan Yan's text, an opportunity to feel like the biggest fool in the whole world and such an embarrassment. And oh my gosh, they must think I'm so stupid every single time I go out and just try to, communicate this much. And that even though you're going forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards, every small occasion feels like the greatest leap of putting yourself out there. And sometimes you fall flat on your face, and sometimes you don't. And when you don't, you're soaring, which was what I was hoping to sort of recreate musically, that feeling of inching forward, crawling back, inching forward, crawling back. Okay, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to soar. And maybe I will, and maybe I won't. And it was really, really lovely to see that and hear that with the three beautiful performers, and that sort of churning feeling of like the world is continuing underneath you while you're searching for the right word, and while you don't have it and you have to just sort of hum and say because you haven't quite found it. But then when you get those very few moments in that early language learning where it actually gels and they understand you and you understand them, you're on the top of the world.
Well, Sheila, this is really interesting. So I'll reveal to everybody now that my little secret is that 3 of the composers here, I think 3, I was a TA for at Carnegie Mellon. And Sheila, I did not know you as a composer. I knew you as a singer. When did you start composing, and how did this happen? Because that's a change for and we hadn't been in touch for a lot of years.
Surprise. So I had studied voice my whole life, and had gone to Carnegie Mellon as a singer, and had the pleasure of being conducted by Maria, and knowing Kate as my neighbor and friend and composer. Not my composer, neighbor and friend and a composer. And after Carnegie Mellon, I went to grad school as a singer, and eventually left the world of being a classical operatic mezzo-soprano to go into social justice and become an advocate for children and youth, and thought that I was done with music and didn't sing barely a note for about 6 years. And speaking of ash clouds, when the Icelandic volcano erupted in 2010 or 11, whenever that was when I decided that I wanted to work in social justice, and didn't do music for a long time. But about 6 years later, I think it was 2016, I quite suddenly realized how much I missed being a part of the music world, and how it suddenly dawned on me, something that is probably very obvious to lots of musicians and non-musicians, that art and music and social justice are not separate things, but that art is in and of itself such a powerful tool for social justice and such a powerful form of social justice. And I finally started sewing those pieces of my life back together, and realized that I had some things to say that I didn't want to say as a singer, but wanted to say as a composer, and wasn't even sure where to begin, and actually reached out to Kate, who has taught me so much in the years since then, and is a big part of why I get to call myself a composer now.
Well, we're glad you've come back and have found your voice in a different way. That's really very exciting. Speaking of justice issues and the last of our immigrant song pieces, I think, Marina and Maria, the Lopezes. Let's chat a little bit about our Spoonful of Hate. This song is also notable because the text was written by Jorge Sosa, who was the composer for Dreamer. So, but he submitted this text. And Marina, did you was this your first choice text? What drew you to this text?
Yeah, it was. I was just so angry about like everything that was going on, and I felt like this text spoke to me because I could finally like have an outlet to like, kind of like hold a mirror to all this hate I was feeling around me. And yeah, I this was my first choice. Once I had to work with the text, I kind of felt like, oh man, now I have to really go there. I asked for this, so now I have to actually like go to that dark place and write this. And so I kind of wrote it as and try to get everything out there and then kind of put it away. And I I was able to hear it last year in Boston, and I was able to hear a lot of the pieces that I heard again today. So that was really nice. I remembered the one with the blah blah blah. It was kind of foggy in my memory. It was like, oh yeah, that I remember that one where like they said blah 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 a bunch. Yeah, I really like that song. And Jorge also had a song in that concert, a really beautiful song. And yeah, it's been great to be able to get to know Cerise and the people at Whitesnake in Boston. I was surprised at Maria when I saw Maria um, Sensi Selner. I was surprised to see your name on the as a conductor for Dreamer. I was excited to see it in Pittsburgh, and I'm sure it'll happen sometime soon. But yeah, I'm really grateful to be here. I'm in Pittsburgh too, and it's a kind of a small world, but it's that we kind of circled around to seeing each other through someone in Boston. But yeah, I'm really grateful. I was so excited to see Maria's performance and to see her really getting into the character. It was amazing. And Katya and Karen did a great job too.
I think that this piece in particular for me, our not having a live performance added another dimension to it. When I received Maria's performance, video performance, I'm like, if you were in a recital hall watching somebody perform this, you would not be as uncomfortable as you were watching the video of her face in the camera. Maria, you want to talk a little bit about this, because I think you had an experience that really resonated with you with this piece, right?
Yeah, the intro that I sent you was longer than the actual piece, which is why we cut it in half. So I really only had in the intro tonight the first half where I talked about reaching out to both Dr. Sosa and to Marina and asking them about their own individual perspectives. My perspective on the piece, without having asked them before I asked them, and I told both of them this, was that I took it as I was singing from the voice of, or I originally thought I would be singing from the voice of someone who is one of those, fragile white people in America who believes that they're not racist, but isn't anti-racist and has enough bias and hate in their heart that they believe that convincing immigrants to erase their own culture in order to become more American is the right thing to do. And so they feed their own internalized whiteness into us as immigrants. And then we end up hating ourselves and having our own cultures drowned. That's what I thought the piece was about. But that was pretty complex and I wasn't sure how to act that. So I thought, let me just reach out to them and ask them what they think. And so Dr. Sosa said that he had originally, when he wrote the text, he was thinking about the voice that I'm singing being the voice of the television and specifically of American news media. So, the news is really biased and it's, it doesn't matter which side of partisanship you fall on or if you fall right in the middle. I think we can all agree that every single news outlet out there leans in some way towards some bias. And that's just how capitalism has affected our news. Because a lot of private owners own these news companies. And then they, because they're the ones who write the checks, are able to influence the way that the news is told based on their own ideas and agendas. And so the story that I told in the second half of my intro that we decided to cut was that I was in Greece several years ago when Greece voted to leave the European Union. In fact, I was in downtown Athens on the day that they announced the vote because I was auditioning for Greek National Opera. And I had my audition, and then I went and had like lunch at a cafe, and I kind of walked around downtown. It was beautiful. It was totally empty. You know, your normal like downtown during a midweek day kind of feel. And then I went back to the hotel. I was staying about an hour away. I went back to the hotel and I went to the bar area because there was this big TV in the bar, and they had on like the Greek version of CNN. And like on the bottom was like a rolling ticker tape of the votes that they were tallying that day for whether or not they would leave the EU. And they had like live cameras that were displaying downtown Athens, and it was in the evening, and people were all out dancing and singing the national anthem, and it was very patriotic. They were waving flags and popping champagne, and it was all very jovial and celebratory and patriotic. And so I'm sitting in the bar watching, waiting for the news to come in about whether or not they decided to leave the EU. And the bartender and the concierge are sitting there talking, and they know that I'm American, so they start speaking in English to include me in the conversation. And one of them had voted to leave the EU, and one of them had voted to stay. And they start talking about it, and you know, one of them's like, "Oh, well, you know, I see your point, and I hope that the vote goes your way." And the other one's like, "Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I hope it works out for you." And then they shake hands and they go back to work, and everything was like very polite and jovial. And I was like, "Wow, we definitely do not talk about politics this way in the U.S." You know, but they invented democracy, so they probably have a bit more practice than us, the Greeks. But so I go back up to my room, I hit the Wi-Fi, and I have like all these messages from my mom on my phone. And she's like, "Where are you? Are you okay? Are you safe? What's going on? Call me immediately." And I was like, "Okay." So I call her, and I'm like, "I'm fine. I just got back to the hotel. My audition went great. Everything's fine, you know?" And she was like, "Are you safe? Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yes, everything's fine. What is your problem?" And she was like, "Turn on the news." So I open up the Associated Press on my phone, and right on the front page of the Associated Press on their like homepage, "Riots in Greece," and it's got like this giant picture of some dude throwing a Molotov cocktail that's on fire. And I was like, that's definitely not what's happening. I literally was just downstairs 2 minutes ago watching the news and everyone's dancing. Like, that's not happening. But that was the first time that it really occurred to me that whether or not we're here at home or we're abroad, our news media has a problem with bias. It really does. And it's the one that helps, you know, these ways that we communicate with each other, that we get our information, is really helping to divide us and create that hate that Marina and I talked about. So when she told me about the perspective of this white supremacist leader who is able to use the same type of divisiveness and that same type of fear to really convince and recruit the youth into these like completely violent and hateful, almost genocidal behaviors, that I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to marry the two. I'm forget what my original plan was and what my original interpretation was. I'm going to do this thing. So hence the jacket and like the pearl necklace. I was like doing my best newscaster for you. But Marina called it the sheep and wolves clothing. You know, she really considered that at the beginning of this piece. You know, you don't really reveal that what you're feeding this immigrant or what you're feeding the people until halfway through the song. And then it's really just so sinister.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I'd love to pivot a little bit now toward the middle of the program. And we've got a couple of pieces that really, for me at least, kind of talk about the experience of being female, of being a woman in a context. And let's go. I'd love to talk about the "Don't Say a Word" and "We Are" in particular. These pieces they were kind of an experiment from a producing standpoint. Annika can tell you that we put that together really rather quickly. And the kind of musical writing, I really wasn't sure how that was going to work in a virtual asynchronous recording kind of way. But I was so happy when she listened to the recording and was very happy with it. But Annika, let's start with you. Annika also, I was her TA too. I just, you know, true confessions. Everybody's doing wonderful things. I graded your harmony. No, not you. You were choir. I graded.
No, I was choir. Yeah.
Kate's harmony homework. I graded. But Annika, tell me about this piece. Tell me about where this is part of a set for you. I believe.
Yeah, this is one in a series of what I'm calling feminist rager lullabies that just kind of speak to the experience of everything I felt like most of my life I haven't been able to say. And that's with regards to gender, with regards to my queerness. It's, I feel like women are constantly told kind of not only what to think, but what they're allowed to then share, I guess. Especially like, I think it was Maria was talking about her experience of trying to like walk down the sidewalk without yielding her space, like we have to do that in the way we speak, in the way we act, not just in terms of literal space, but like I'm not allowed to take up so much space in a conversation. Like right now I feel like I'm talking way too much and I need to shut up, right? And I think we're all kind of conditioned to like, like, oh, I'm not going to talk too much, and then like men dominate conversations all the time. It's just how it works. And so, this was my chance to take up space and to assert who I was, and to get angry about it, because that's another thing we're not allowed to do is be angry, right? So, the the series culminates actually. The final piece in this series is called "Shy One, Sweet One," and the text for that is something that I wrote that's. Shy one, sweet one, love your temper, love your tongue, love what scares them, then you've won. And so that kind of I think summarizes a lot of the pieces, and don't say a word. It was like, all right, like your temper, your anger, that's actually like that's not a bad thing. We've been taught that that's a bad thing, and especially as someone I'm like an introverted introvert, like I'm so introverted, and to be able to just express that and to be able to sing that and have that to create an environment in which it's allowed to be celebrated was kind of the goal there.
And I think this connects so nicely to Kate's piece, We Are, which I have been aware of for a while. I think because we're friends, and when you had this premiere, and I've listened to it on the premiere on your website a number of times, and when we had this series, when the series ended up emerging as the thing that we were going to do to launch this 8th season in this new way. I wanted to find a way to include that piece. But you gave a really lovely introduction to it, but how, you said you got texts from friends of yours. Were there things that surprised you? Like how did you go through that, and which texts you selected, and how it was built?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. So this piece premiered at the end of October in 2016. So the week before the presidential election 4 years ago. And I had written it sort of over the summer. And so it carried a particular weight then in that concert, in that sort of weekend of performances. And it was interesting also to sort of think about it now, 4 years later, basically around the same time. And, I think in the conversations in the text, I think a lot of the things that were spoken in that piece are phrases that we've heard or overheard while we've been in a room, or sometimes things have been said directly to us. And I think, one of the things that Annika touched on is the idea that women are really not meant to take up space, and they're not meant to speak out or speak up. And so anytime there is something negative said, we're just sort of supposed to take it, right? That there aren't often avenues or safe spaces for us to speak out and say, hey, that thing you just said isn't okay. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do was to capitalize on the SH in the word she, right? So that we have this sort of juxtaposition of the silencing of sh, and then also it becoming the root of the of the word she, and that the first half really was, especially sort of getting into the middle of the piece, really was meant to make people feel uncomfortable. And especially people who hadn't maybe been recipients of those kinds of comments, to sort of feel this weird juxtaposition of these really sort of pleasant triadic moments sort of sprinkled around, but none of them were quite connected to each other. And then the percussive interruption of this silencing she, and these kinds of, these statements. And the high point of the piece actually came from an email from a good friend of mine named Claire, who's a chemist. And she's always sort of been at the top of her class and is, involved. She's at Hopkins right now and is, in it, but she's so often been the only one in the room. And in an email I was talking about this piece, and she said, in the end, we're all this collection of drips and drops and tidbits of strength and camaraderie. Like, we are all these individual people that come together to be this, this unit of all of the things that we've been criticized for. Again, we can sort of celebrate. And I think, that plays to Annika's mention of, anger, right? That's a thing that we've sort of been taught to submerge and shy away from, but really it's a place, a place where we are that we can celebrate. And so it was surprisingly difficult to write that piece, I think, because I just had to lean into the discomfort that I've been a recipient of, and then just sort of been told to put down, to push down or push to the side. And so it was really important to me that there was a sort of part in the piece that things felt like they were bubbling up, and it was uncomfortable to listen to. But then those words ended up coming back in the second half of the piece and were a point of celebration.
I think that what I was struck by when I first kind of got your concept for the piece and then listened to the premiere was I wasn't shocked, because I have heard all of those things, and the perspective, different people listening to that piece are going to have different experience, and I love, I'm grateful. Again, this was a actually quite challenging virtual ensemble, and Christian Chechko, you're a sorcerer.
But so hard. I don't know how you all did it.
But also the 8 women who performed that, a few who are here on this call, I'm grateful for that, because they were up for the challenge. And when you're in a room together, you get to tune and have word endings be the same and all those things. But it really is a testimony to everybody's musicianship. And especially for an a cappella piece, to just give people a little bit of how the sausage is made. Both of these pieces, Annika and Kate prepared a track, which included, and Annika's, it was a click track with her vocals in it, and then she gives directions. So there are pieces of Annika's piece that are aleatoric, where people perform a cell for a certain length of time, and then she would count that off. So there was some instruction on the click track. In Kate's, she prepared kind of an accompaniment that nobody gets to hear but the singers, which is just a drone for pitch and clicks and some MIDI. So it was really it was a tool that only the singers got to hear, since we were not able to do this in a traditional way. And I want to thank both of you for being up for the challenge of testing this out in this way, and for all the singers and players who were involved. I really wasn't quite sure when we set out how it was going to turn out, but I'm so glad both pieces we were able to share them with everybody. Similarly, in a similar way, we had a world premiere tonight by Selka, that with Maria's text. Selka, can you talk a little bit? We heard Maria's introduction earlier about the text, but can you tell us how did you get involved in this? What's your side of the COVID dance?
Well, my side of the COVID dance is, once upon a time, Maria Lopez actually sang in a piece of mine at a workshop called New Opera Works, New Opera West in Los Angeles. It was staged at USC, and Maria, of course, was an incredibly strong singer and so much fun to work with. She was the main character, essentially, of the scene. It's called The Girlfriend. The scene is called The Girlfriend, and it was my little sort of my little workshop piece going into what eventually became an opera called Mirror Game that Portland State put on. But anyway, so Maria was like, hey, we're looking for pieces by women. Would you be interested in submitting a piece? And I was like, I have some of these. What do you think? And she's like, actually, I have a poem. Would you be interested in setting text to it? And I was like, absolutely. Like, why not? That sounds like so much fun. And I mean, like, Maria's an incredibly creative, artistic individual. And it's like, anytime I want to work with her, like, absolutely, I'm completely down. And I guess, like, I think my understanding is she picked me because she knows I can write something to be sort of funny and ironic and uncomfortable and, like, reflect something that's, like, kind of serious, and it's there and we're all uncomfortable the whole time. I mean, and so she was like, I want this to be a piece where I'm, like, possibly, you know, scooting past audience members, bumping into people, and I'm like, okay, I can totally do that. Cause, like, that's the rhythm of my, like, I mean, everyone's talking about taking up space and being afraid of taking up space. I mean, like, that's obviously, like, the rhythm of my life so often. So, but the thing is, I always write about it. Like, I always write my music to reflect that. And she put some good words in. I wanted to use the fun vowels of, like, scooch and, like, move past and whoops, which are all things that you don't normally see in, like, when you're setting text. So it's like, of course, I need to dive into those and exaggerate them as much as possible. And I knew that, of course, she would do a fantastic job. Yeah, yeah, scooch. So yeah, thank you, Maria, for asking me to be a part of it, because you're a fantastic performer, and congratulations on writing the lyrics to this, because it is an important thing for us all to be thinking about. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Yeah, no, you are exactly right. That is why I chose you. I am very blessed to know a lot of really amazing modern female composers, especially here in Los Angeles. But no one has your voice, and your voice was the one that needed to be in this piece. It was you. You are funny. The way that you write is it's witty and it's honest and it's raw and it's polished at the same time. It was your voice. It had to be.
Yeah, well, I really appreciated being asked, but it is interesting. It's fun to work through lyrics like that, because, you know, you get to serious, like, moments where you're like, wish I was never born, and Maria played it off sort of comically, but as I'm writing, I'm like, yeah, I have these feelings. Like, I'm like, why am I in this space? No one wants me to be there, you know, that sort of thing. But obviously people do. But, you know, like, just reflecting on that, it's like a good, honest feeling on those experiences. So, yeah.
Well, we're grateful. The way this all worked is that I was talking to Maria, and she said, "Well, I'm having this song written, and we could give the world premiere, and how would that be?" And so there was a lot of trust in all of this for all of us, and so I'm so glad, and congratulations to Selka and Maria for this world premiere. We're happy to have had that be a part of this program. Dawn, you got to do something brand new for you, but not exactly how you would have done it had there been an audience, right?
No. Yeah. No, I've never gotten a chance to do a piece with electronics before, surprisingly. I
do a lot of new music though, right?
Yeah, I've done a lot of new music, and I mean, I've done some things, but not like a solo piece like this. So this was like a new experience, which was really fun. It's supposed to be done with when you do it live, you know, there's all kinds of technical aspects of making sure that your sound is amplified and your live amplified sound is balanced with a backtrack recording and a delay pedal that you line up to delay your sound by a quarter note. And actually, as far as I talked to Lindsay Goodman a lot about how to do all this because that's her jam, you know, like all the electroacoustic stuff. So this one was really straightforward. It's not like I had to fade things in or out or anything. So it was a pretty gentle introduction for me into that performance space. But Christian really made it happen. So I just got to record along with the click track, and then Christian like put it all together and made it sound amazing. So I got pretty lucky with that.
Well, and we were excited. You were, I believe, supposed to play on our program in March when we were supposed to do Missy Mazzoli's bass concerto, which we do hope we are able to reschedule sometime soon. But you know, I've been a fan. I think, and I was looking at smaller pieces. You know, what are these composers that we were going to feature, and what are some smaller pieces that we could do in a in this virtual space? And you know, this piece just has a completely different soundscape from anything else that we have on the program, and I'm so glad that you were part of this. I can say we haven't nailed down the date yet, but Dawn is going to give a recital on our virtual Resonance Chamber series coming up, I think probably in November. Stay tuned. Yeah. Stay tuned for a date. But yeah. You want to just give a 5-second commercial for what that recital is going to be like?
Yeah, so it'll be violin and piano recital, and all music by Black composers. And I'm kind of going back to sort of like the sort of some of the more foundational Black composers, like William Grant Still and Samuel Coleridge Taylor and Florence Price. And then I've thrown in some Adolphus Halstrick in there as well, who's alive and well. But it's a Baroque suite. So he has taken Baroque movements and sort of harmonically made them really weird and funky, and they're really cool. So I'm excited. The music is all really, really beautiful. And I think it should all be music that should be familiar. And a lot of it has been recorded like once or twice, but you know, I think we need to expand the canon, and I'm excited to maybe be a part of that. So, but I really appreciate Maria creating this space for the recital and for these programs. You know, it's a real honor to kind of be with all of you here, like some incredible women.
It's an impressive and beautiful group, dare I say.
Yeah, it's just, I'm really honored to be here. So, well, and I think Maria also introducing me to this Missy Mazzoli, because you know I didn't know this piece, and she sort of sent it to me, and I was like, oh my god, this piece is awesome. And the text of it being a new dark age, and I belong in this new dark age, I thought was really interesting. She wrote it in 2014, so the fact that she was feeling it then, and I think we really feel it now, was especially imprinting for me.
Yeah, there's a recording of her ensemble of the whole piece, Vespers for a New Dark Age, and I remember when I first encountered it, I was like, wow, okay, but I wasn't necessarily emotionally prepared for it. I feel more prepared for it now. Than I was when I first encountered it, but I think it resonates a lot with what we're experiencing in these last number of years in the world. So, and you said about expanding the canon. That's a really important thing for me and for Resonance Works to try to show what a new normal could be for programming that includes voices that haven't been included before. And we took advantage of the fact that we were celebrating the centennial of the 19th Amendment to kind of wave the flag for it. But it's our commitment to have gender equity and more diversity in our programming all the time. And I really actually resisted having a program of music by all women, because it has been such a it can be a token thing. But really what I wanted to do is introduce our audience and the audience all over the internet to all of you and the music of all these amazing women, past and present. And at last but absolutely not least, because we've got lots to talk about, Jill DeLyons and Timmy Williams. So this is a reunion. This is a Haibun reunion. Can you tell, I don't know, either one of you, talk a little bit about End of Summer Haibun, where this piece came from, why it was written, and what it means to each of you.
So I was commissioned by American Opera Projects to write 3 pieces during my residency as composer in residence for Chautauqua Opera. And that was last summer, 2019. And the nature of my commissioning schedule through that season was such that I was still writing this song when I got to Chautauqua, because it's a big residency. It's like almost 3 months. And so I got to write it having met Timmy and having heard her and gotten to talk with her and see her performance and see how physical she was, despite the fact that she was really pregnant throughout the duration of her. And that was real. There were certain moments where she was being staged lifting things, and I perform. I'm also a vocalist, and I performed through my pregnancies, and did all the moving stuff. And I noticed, but I was still like, "Whoa, Timmy, that's a big box that you are carrying. Are you in those heels? Really?" Like it was kind of an incredible thing to not just do research and not just have conversations with her about the piece, but to have life around the piece with her. And to have the realization, I actually go really deep with my text before I said a word. And I had read so much of Amy Nizuka Matatil's work, and a lot of it focused on her relationship with her partner. And so because of that, I had my first pass at the poem had really been about her with her lover. And then I had this moment of realization that she's not talking to her partner, she's talking to her child. And that to be sung by Timmy just in that moment was really profound, because there are so many ways to be courageous as a human. And when we introduce gender into the conversation, the ways that we can have courage and say what needs to be said are varied. And I found Amy's ability and the courage she had to be funny, the courage she had to talk about being not just a wife, but a happy wife, like that to me was very, very courageous. And to talk about being a happy mother, because it's something that they're really in my life. There's been a lot of different experiences of that, right? That I've seen a lot of women when they became a wife or a mother, that was absolutely, there was no space to talk about that, because there were jobs they weren't going to get due to either, right? And so to sort of celebrate it and allow her, she's cool, and she does, and she's actually happy. Like it was really amazing to find these texts and to lock into them with Timmy and explore them through Timmy was really quite it was quite beautiful. And I don't know, Timmy, you want to talk about the first time when we got together with the song?
Sure. So I remember very vividly having our first meeting and you singing through your own piece and just thinking how wonderful and amazing it was to watch you really live your own work. it was incredible. And it really, I think, gave me permission to do the same. I feel like a lot of times in my career, I've had to be asking for permission to be myself, not because anybody was requiring that of me, but I felt like I needed permission to just perform and to go into my own space and to really just be myself and to be comfortable doing that. And I think slowly but surely I've gone through the process and been able to do that. And really us meeting was formative for me at that moment to say, no, it's really okay. You can really be yourself in this. It really is fine. Please go there. And I felt really comfortable after that point, really exploring this part of myself that was developing in real time. I had never been a parent before. I had never been pregnant before. So every day was a challenge and a journey for me. And to explore that through this text and use it as a vehicle to wonder what moments like the text talks about would be like for me. That was really special. And I can remember the premiere. There was like a curtain of like white linen in the back of the room. And somehow I stared at that linen to focus myself before the piece started. But it was like I had evaporated and was in a different place for that whole performance. And I don't think that had ever happened for me before, that I had really ever transported like that.
Wow.
And now I think it's really interesting to perform it a year later because there is another level of understanding there. The text talks about, I think it really centers around wanting to freeze time for a minute and to step back. And I have realized that in motherhood, there's really not a whole lot of time to breathe. You're always doing something, always making sure that everybody's okay and fed and on it in bed on time. And, you know, are you hurt? Is everything okay? You're not making noise? What's going on in there? But I have really, especially in this time of the pandemic, when everything has kind of shifted and priorities have shifted, I've really found myself wanting to take a moment and to step back and to breathe and to make the moments. And who cares if the dishes are dirty for a minute, because my little one, she's laughing, and today her laugh is one way, but tomorrow it's going to be different. So to really just live in the moment and to be present is so important. And this piece lets me go there, which I think is a gift. So thank you so much, Gilda, for that.
That's beautiful, Timmy. Thanks. And you got like 30% of your lungs back.
I know! My gosh! Yes. Yes, I was noticing that I don't need to take hardly any of the breaths that I marked. I have like, I took out about 50% of the breaths that I wrote.
I heard it. It sounded great at the premiere, but I was like, oh, look at those lines. She's got them right there.
Yes. That was a pleasant surprise. Yes, for sure.
Well, Gilda, we have you to thank for introducing us to Timmy. It's a funny story, right? Because we were talking about something else, which we'll talk about in a minute, and she said, you should know this fantastic singer. And Gilda, you didn't know she lived in Pittsburgh, right?
No, I had remembered that Timmy had been making the trips from Chautauqua to Pittsburgh during the residency, and it had stuck. That's part of why I thought it would be a good connection. I mean, it wasn't the only reason. I just really wanted you to know her, especially because the nature of life is that you can be working. We're all working with people on different continents now. So, but yeah, no, she's in your hometown.
Well, we're grateful because this has been a wonderful. We've actually, in our COVID times or COVID performances, we've expanded our artistic family by several fantastic artists, and Timmy is one of those. So we're so glad to have you, Timmy and Gilda. Thank you for that connection. I have to say, I love the text of this song so much. It is so sensual, in that it engages all the senses. And always thought that, but as I was typing in the captions, it became even more evident. And I've actually looked up the writer, and I am now a proud owner of several Kindle books of her writing, which I enjoy very much. So I thank you for introducing me to her as well. Gilda and I have been working on some other projects, or another big project, which is going to come to fruition this month. I keep saying next month, but it is October somehow. Somehow it's October already. And we want to just chat for a minute about what's coming up. During this pandemic, it's been 6 months. Back in March, when we had to put off a lot of things, there was a seed of an idea that was brought to us, and we are one of 9 indie independent opera companies that are involved in this Decameron Opera Coalition, which has its world premiere next Friday. It is a enormous new opera in a night where we're talking about new music. This is not a bunch of companies thinking smaller. We're thinking bigger. We're thinking how to make new work in this time, and how do we do it with the restrictions that we have. So there are 9 companies. There are 10 creative teams. The co-creators, Peter Hilliard and Matt Barresi, who were writing the wraparound story. It was their idea in the first place. And then each company has their own composer librettist team. And each have written a chapter that's inspired by Boccaccio's The Decameron. And so this is going to be released just like our March of the Women series, in a series where one ticket gives you access to all 4 episodes. Each episode has multiple chapters plus the wraparound story. And Gilda, we have had this conversation a couple times, how we feel like we know each other better than we do, and we feel like we've worked together, but we haven't. And this gave us the opportunity to do that. Do you want to talk a little bit about what's coming up for us and our chapter, which is called Sourdough Rise Up?
So we have a film that is a chamber opera, and when Maria approached me about the project, I knew that I would be composer librettist, and threw out this idea of what if the other member of our creative team were an illustrator. And Chris Lyons, who's just a magnificent, sensitive, wonderful artist, an illustrator, he agreed to come on as the other half of this duo over here, and then Maria, an integral part of this creative team, and we charged ahead with a story that's told with a graphic novel, refracted through a graphic novel lens of 3 everyday heroes that are wrestling with their own fortune during this time.
It is a beautiful piece. We are so proud to have commissioned it and produced it. We hope everybody will tune in to this major endeavor, because it, just as varied as this crew of artists and composers and performers are, Tales from a Safe Distance is the name of the collective work, and each chapter has a different musical language because each has a different composer, and each has a different visual style because everybody took a different approach. We have companies from New York to Duluth in Minnesota, Fargo, Houston, Texas, Chicago, Milwaukee. It's quite a diverse team, and Matt calculated the other day 86 artists are involved, both performing artists, designers, creators, and production artists. So we're so excited about that. We hope everybody watching will tune in. There's going to be lots of hype on our social channels about that. And we're so glad that Jilda's chapter, our chapter's in the final episode 4, but you're going to want to watch all of them. And we want you to watch all of them. And you get access to all of them. Why wouldn't you watch all of them? One of them is sort of a pseudo VR experience. One has some like quasi animation happening. There's a couple that are real sexy romps because the Cameron's known for being pretty bawdy piece of literature. And there's some that take on some really serious topics, including domestic violence in times of quarantine. So we hope you will tune in for all of that. I am so grateful and impressed with all of you ladies that have joined us tonight. I wonder, we've talked about each of your pieces, but I just want to like open it up and say, are there other works on the program that you were able to see and hear tonight? You know, what are your reactions to the works that are not your own on this program, and also maybe how can we, from your perspective, continue to give voice to composers who have historically not had that outlet for their voices to be heard? Anybody?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to just say one thing that occurred to me when Helen was talking about Sheila and Michelle's pieces, is that I moved to Mexico when I was a child for my dad's job. And I don't understand a word that you are saying. It is so, it literally ripped through me. I mean, I went straight back to my grade school in Mexico City, and where, I mean, I didn't understand a word, and I got made fun of a lot. And there was weeks and weeks where I would just sit by myself and like, are they talking about me? What are they saying about me? Are they, I mean, it was just, you're right. Like the trauma of that, Michelle, when you said that it's a trauma, it really is. So I just wanted to say, I think, even though I wasn't immigrating to Mexico, I was just, there for a short term for my father's job, that I think that piece speaks to a lot of people who aren't just immigrants. And I just wanted to thank you for that, for both of you, for that idea of how difficult it is to learn a new language, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It's just, it was beautiful to listen to and to witness. And it's so, so, so relatable.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I think one thing is, I describe it as trauma, but on the other hand, I think as artists, it's also quite a unique experience that actually become part of you, that will influence your artistic voices. That is, frankly, almost is another privilege too, to like, I mean, be able to travel to another place and experience a different culture is a privilege already. A lot of people don't even have that to do that. And then personally, like honestly, the first 2 years after I moved here as an adult, I kind of, my memories about the first 2 years was almost blank, because I only remember the visual stimulation, but I didn't really get the context. And it was like only toddlers can experience that when they're trying to learn a new language. So a lot of like adults couldn't even experience it. And honestly, I kind of feel grateful that I experienced it and get to like learn the world in a different points of view, like this. So it's a trauma, but at the same time, I guess we can also turn it into a blessing in some ways. Yeah.
I think one of the things that stuck out to me in that song is when Helen says, "You're moving your arms a lot. Are you trying to make me like kind of like how it's nonsensical to think that somebody's gonna understand exactly what you're saying because you're moving your arms a lot." I had the experience of seeing that a lot. I also immigrated to the U.S. As an adult, and I went to school, and I remember kind of the assumptions that people made about you and about your like intelligence level and about your big nod, your intelligence level, and how deep you could think about things, because I guess there's just this assumption of like, oh, I have to speak to you as though you were a child, because like, and no, like behind the language barrier, there's a complete complex adult. And yeah, it was very relatable. My parents too learned English. Um, I came here already knowing English, but my parents, especially my mom, learned English in her 30s, moving here with me when I was a little girl. So I don't know. I think it was Karen who was saying that she sat watching Sesame Street with her mom, and that was me too, sort of learning English at the same time as my mom. So that was a very relatable point, I think, for all of us.
Karen, you got to perform so many pieces on this whole series, from these new works to works by Clara Schumann, and
Yeah, that's right.
You have, right? That was only last week.
I know.
It feels like a year ago because every day is a month now. But you've got as much perspective as anybody on this whole series. We're so grateful you were a part of it. I don't wonder if you have any thoughts, or if there are moments or pieces that have stuck out to you, or things that have ingrained from that we've done together in this last month, I guess.
We captured everything from Alma. Is her name Alma Maria?
Anna Amalia.
Anna Amalia. That's what it is. Not I have Maria in my mind.
From Weimar. Yeah.
Anna Amalia to these beautiful ladies here. It's truly been a gift. I loved every single piece I worked on, and I especially enjoyed this group of pieces. I think one of the fun parts too is to work with an instrumentalist throughout this as well. So that was also a gift to just play with someone in person. But it was funny. I actually sat down this morning just to re-look at the text for all this, because I was so focused on rhythms and lines, and it's just so incredible how just this blank page can emote so much and have so many emotions. And I think what really stuck out to me was, I think I was surprised how much Summer and Haibun touched me, actually. Also because I had worked with Gilda many, many years ago at Pittsburgh Festival Opera when we did her opera based on Rachel Carson. So that was a couple of years ago. And so I kind of put Gilda's piece on the back burner a little bit because I had all this other music to learn. And then after we had recorded that day for like 3.5 hours, I had to rehearse with Timmy on this piece. And I think I was blessed with Timmy just knowing the piece so well, and just courageously leading me as well. But I just started crying at what was the line? Like, this is how I will always remember you. Yeah, I mean, I have a 2.5-year-old now, and it just gutted me, and I wasn't expecting it, because I'm like, oh, I went through 3.5 hours of recording, but hey, I was still emotionally available. And when we were recording, I was telling Timmy that it was to the point where I wasn't even it was like an out-of-body experience of just the overtones and Timmy's overtones and everything just meshing together. And that was really, really special to me. That stuck out to me. And I mean, all of the pieces, I mean, I had so much fun with the rhythms in 3 Steps Forward, and Katya had so much fun just like grooving to it. And Alice was also just almost felt like Baroque-like to me in a way. I don't know if that was something that you had feelings, but it felt a little Baroque to me, and I loved it because I love playing Bach. So it had a nice square tonal feeling, which I enjoyed. And then Spoonful of Hate. I mean, I loved that one as well. With it was very like the range was so high and so low, and it was just really fun to jump back and forth and kind of create chaos with that. And of course, I can't understand what you're saying. That was fun. I mean, I think I can add another thing to my resume of being a blah blah blah, or
special
speaking.
skills, Karen. We call it
Exactly,
special skills.
special skills, blah blah blah. But what a gift! And I said this at the first post concert, but just like never thinking you would meet so many people during a pandemic or having this happen, and it makes me feel so close in a time where you can feel so alone. And I got to work with singers that I knew in Pittsburgh but had not seen in a while, and just to reconnect with music and to learn music again, and just to feel at home again, and which is so it's been amazing, and I can't believe it's over.
Well, it's not over because you can experience it all for the next 3 months, and we hope you will do that, and and tell a friend. And we're going to continue to promote this series. This is not and we're trying to make people think a little differently about how we take in performances. These were 3 premieres, but they're just opening night of a long run. And one thing about a virtual performance is, folks that would say to me, "Oh, I'm really sorry I missed that." Right? Well, we don't have that issue. You haven't missed it because it's happening for a long period of time. And these conversations are being archived and will be on we're on Facebook and YouTube, but also for those who are watching the performances, the links are going to be there to these videos as well, so they can hear from all of you wonderful composers and performers. I think that Karen, what you're saying about Gilda's piece, and it's kind of why, honestly, up until very late in the game, I won't admit, I wasn't quite sure what the program order was going to be for tonight, for this program. But this idea of just trying to capture this moment and hold on to this moment in your song, that had meaning for me in context of the whole series, and that we want to do that, and that we need to do that more. So that's why that's what gave you placement there in as the final word. We've been chatting way longer than we intended to, and I'm really grateful for these ladies, and I could talk to you for another hour, but we won't take that much of your time. We're grateful for all the time that you've given us. The Part 1 of this series premiered the day after the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and we have dedicated this series to her memory. Arguably no one has done what she has done for gender equality in the last half century, and we as women owe her, and as people owe her quite a lot. I said this at the end of the program. She said, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made. It shouldn't be the exception." And I want to say that includes our concert halls and our opera houses. And let's create a reality. Let's show what that reality looks like. Because this series had music from 24 amazing women. And I don't think if we had never said that the composers were women, the music is amazing and meaningful and emotional and poignant and funny and dramatic. These are voices that need to be heard, and we want to be a part of that and moving our world of music forward. And we hope that those who have watched and listened have found some new composers to love and found some new music that means things to them. So almost all of these works hit me in a very special place, And all of you and everybody that's been a part of this, composers and singers and instrumentalists, are really so important, and I'm so grateful for all of you. So thank you to these 13, 14, however many of math is, it's too late for math. Counting's out the window. But all of you fantastic people, and those of you that are watching live now and that will be watching in the future, thank you for supporting our work. Thank you for supporting the work of these and all of our artists. And we hope you will continue to be engaged with us throughout this season. Have a wonderful night.